Let's wind back the clock 100 years or so in time. Remember those who fought and died, our freedom to enshrine. Though they fought for social justice, they were slaughtered for a crime. The minds and hearts of our patriots cut down in their prime. Oh, what did they die for? Our nation to proclaim. Murdered by a system that held them in disdain. Now our government commits an act for which they should be shamed, inviting the heads of the system back to turn them in their graves. The workers and the unions, the politically inclined, the warriors from communities, they all stood side by side with the artists and the teachers, with the poets and the bards. We can hear their cry for freedom rising from their minds and hearts. In the streets of our fair city, a century down the line, the brave and good of Ireland congregate behind a sign, demanding social justice, while the powers that be seem blind. The people have awoken now, getting stronger all the time. Oh, what do we fight for? Our nation to reclaim, bullied by a government that hold us in disdain. History might repeat itself, but outcomes shall be changed. The power now lies in the people's hands in these patriotic games. The workers and the unions, the politically inclined.
It was a great turnout today on the first Right to Water March in 2016, and by all accounts around the country there has been a great turnout of working people, Cork, Limerick, Galway, right up to Letterkenny. So working people are beginning to once again mobilise around the whole question of right to water. But we need to take this question of water to the next level, and that means that we must become looking for the political support around the demands laid out in Right to Change. Right to Change is a very minimum programme which we think working people can identify with, should organise around, and come the general election, these are the points contained within the Right to Change manifesto. These are the points we want to put to the politicians who come knocking on the door. We can't afford to allow the politicians from whatever hue to rob the people's anger, to transform the people's anger into canning fodder for voting. We must build a risen people, a conscious people, a political people.
Absolutely, Irish Water has to go. It's a unmitigating disaster since day one. They're not actually paying, or they're not actually maintaining or repairing the pipes at the moment. They're actually employing subcontractors, private subcontractors, to do the work. Sometimes they get the expertise of the county council workers back in to do the work, and in fact this is privatisation by the back door.
Media, you say media, well the media pays little regard to what's happening on the streets of Dublin today, or what's happened on the streets of Dublin over the last year. I mean, per capita, there was 100,000 people out in the streets in late 2015. That per capita equates something like in the region of 30-40% of the people, of the voting population of Ireland, were out in the street demanding that the government change its direction, that it takes a different attitude towards working people, basically saying they've had enough and it couldn't go any further. That's not reflected in mainstream media. Your RTEs, your TV3s, they estimate the figures to be way below, at least a third of what the actual figures were. So we have a media who is working hand in hand with the government, who is working hand in hand with the Irish Water, and actually asking or acting like a bulletin board for Irish Water by constantly reminding us of the fake figures of the amount of people who have signed up to actually pay water, constantly downgrading the amount of people on the streets, constantly taking the anger and the sting out of what ordinary people feel.
Have public ownership of water, with the support the right of people to public ownership of all our natural resources. These are the key questions. The right to repudiate the debt, as we could see from the recent report, that this debt was imposed upon the Irish people by the European Union in collaboration with the Irish government and the Irish financial institutions. Now is an opportunity to strike at the heart of these people, to say that we no longer accept and wish to put up with this debt, this odious and repugnant debt.
Paid for by general taxation, and the only way we can ensure this is to have a referendum to have public ownership and management of water put into the Constitution.
If that amount of people, if 20 or 30% of the Syrian people came out on the streets demanding a change of government, the UN will be talking about invading at this stage. People will be saying this is shocking, this is disgraceful, that the government is so out of touch, it's a cruel despot government out of touch with its citizens. Well, that's what we have here in Ireland today. We have a cruel, non-regarding government who does not bow to the will of the people but is on an agenda of its own.
And we must live up to the goals and ideals set by Connolly and Pearse and the other leaders of 1916. This is about democracy and sovereignty. It's about the people being having democratic control and say over all aspects of their lives. It's about sovereignty and where the Irish people themselves decide their future. It is not up to the European Union or the Bundestag to tell us what we can do and what we cannot do. It's that the people must be sovereign, our country must be sovereign, and that can only be brought about by the working people. As Connolly has said, we have painted the green boxes, the post boxes green. We have taken the crown from the harp, but it hasn't changed anything. Working people are still being evicted. We're still mass unemployment. We still get mass immigration. We're still people living in poverty, living in slums, massive growing homelessness.
The media have copped on that this is a powerful movement. It is a dangerous movement. It is dangerous to the establishment because people are not calling just for change, but they're calling for an end of a government that does not respect their rights. People are looking at in this year, 2016, and looking to what happened in 1916 and comparing it to what's happening in 2016 and saying, well, have we moved on much further? Has the interest of Irish working people been looked after in the last 100 years? And the answer resoundingly is no.
Irish Water has to go, and the sooner the better. And remember, a vote for Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or Labour is a vote for Irish Water, is a vote for the neoliberal agenda. Vote for change.
A lot of people are angry at our government and individuals in the government, but our government is not acting as an independent body. It is acting as a body directed by international finance and by the EU. And people on the streets have copped onto this, that not only is our government the problem, but the European Union is our problem. And that until we sort of revisit these things, especially in 2016, until we revisit these issues, well then it's not going to go away. So I say to Irish media, either cop on or just declare yourself a government media, a media for the government, by the government, and leave way to the other people like Connolly Media Group who will give out the truth.
Murdered by a system that held them in disdain. Now our government commits an act for which they should be shamed, inviting the heads of the system back.